Well, I'll play the vocal of this. It's I do a lot of remixes, and I do really enjoy remixes because, especially vocal mixes, because it means you don't have to pay for a vocalist yourself, and you can kind of do something quite impressive with it, and it makes you look quite flash. But also, you know, the entire art of remixing, it's more about taking a track somewhere else that you hear that the original artist didn't do. And I think sometimes that can have a lot better results because you've got a lot more afterthought. Sometimes you make something and you get lost in it and you don't know where you're going with it. But when you can take someone else's material and use it in a very fresh way, you get possibly the most interesting collaboration. Because I'm not a great collaborator, I must say. In a room full of people, I kind of clam up and I can't really do what I do, you know. So when you've got a remix, it's like a virtual collaboration.
Pretty strange feeling for you at this stage, going from, like, you know, you're doing Sonar Circle and you're even struggling to get people to play this form of drum and bass, to making this record that sounded so fresh and new, and all of a sudden you've got people like Giles Peterson and Patrick Forge going, oh yeah. Well,
you know, not all of a sudden, I'll hold you up there.
Okay.
It's quite a long, arduous journey.
But different, you know, different people
No, yeah. Well, a whole other world started to open up to me from that point, that there were people who were open-minded, there were DJs that had spent their life, well, you know, their adult life fighting for a cause, which was this type of music, which is eclectic music. And I was you know, I was lucky to be around at that time when people from lots of different genres were breaking away from whatever their genre was because of the closed-mindedness of it. You know, you have like people like IG Culture, who was in a acid jazz hip-hop thing. You know, he worked with Young Disciples. He had a thing called Dodge City Productions, which was a big-ish hip-hop, British hip-hop act. He was kind of misguided. You had Phil Asher, who was like a UK house producer, kind of losing his way a bit. You had Mark and Digo, Four Hero, drum and bass producers, losing their way a bit. And they were kind of elder statesmen. They've all had big deals. They all know how the business works. And they were kind of starting to talk about doing something else.
And it wasn't just Mark and Digo from Reinforce, you know, there was...
Well, we were all there as well, you know. And Seiji was an artist. Seiji and G-Force were there as well. And they later went on to work with Orin and Kaidi and Daz to make Bugs. But Bugs was kind of bubbling when we were at Reinforce around that time. Seiji would say to me, oh, you know, you should really do some of this stuff for Bugs. And I'm like, what's Bugs, you know? And even at this stage, there was Goya, the distributor that Enrico talked about, has a label called People Records, which made, at the start of this scene, very influential records from IG Culture and people like that. And they'd already been out in 1998, and I missed them because I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what my direction was. You know, I kind of like Jazzanova, and I kind of like Four Hero, and I kind of like Hefner, and people like this that were being different, but there was no umbrella, there was no name for it. And now if you want to know what it is, it's called Broken Beat. But I kind of look back at that period, 98, 99, and much prefer it then, because it wasn't called anything. People were just making music, and you had to go and find it where it was.
And was there a good, like, you know, support network as such? There was, you know, everyone was kind of supportive of each other, and
well, there wasn't really. It was just people with similar ideas. So it's like people here all working together. Yeah, right. Okay, we'll do this, and everyone's excited and buzzing because there's no structure. But imagine if we all lived here for 3 years, we'd kind of do each other's head in after a little while. I don't want to play on the flute today. You know, it's like, just leave me alone. So that kind of happens in a scene. It's the same thing. You don't live together, but you see each other every day. You talk about music every day, and it just wears you down. And in a way, I can see how scenes like, you know, the UK drum and bass scene, because scenes are, there's no one at the centre of a scene saying, I'm going to take this scene there, and I'm going to control it. It's just a bunch of people making music, and it can go wrong, and it quite often does. So in a way, you're better off on your own, just thinking about what you're doing and someone you can really trust, rather than entrusting your faith to this, to, you know, to the god of Broken Beat, whoever he may be, you know. Come on, god of Broken Beat, get me there, get me through.
Lead me through the way.
Yeah. The thing with DJing, like being influenced by DJing is kind of not really that constructive, because you can come home from DJing and see what works on the floor, because I don't often play much of my music out on the dance floor, very rarely, because I don't like seeing people stop dancing to it. But you know, when you start to see what works on the dance floor, it can change the way you make music. Say someone like, you know, from the drum and bass scene, say Dillinger. Dillinger, up to around 94, 95, used to make quite experimental drum and bass. Then I think there was a point where he started DJing and started to realise what worked on the dance floor. And it just changes your whole attitude, because you're then starting to make music for the dance floor. And then you lose this whole element of the mind. You know, it should be three things: mind, body and soul. Music should be, and it should appeal to all of those at once. And there's music that's just for dancing, there's music that's just for crying to, there's music that's just to kind of make you think and is political. But if you can try and incorporate all three of those into a record, then I think it makes it last forever. It makes it work on so many different levels.
I mean, depending on where you play it, there's certain people that, you know, different people have heard your music via different names, etc., and people are booking you to DJ. Are they all after, they want to book you as Domu, or they want to book you as this or that?
As long as I know what their night is, I can. If it's an eclectic, I mean, I would rather play. I hate, you know, it's a horrible word, isn't it? Eclectic. I am an eclectic DJ, but it's. I want to just be able to play the records I'm feeling at that time, and old records that I like, that are relevant to that kind of, that movement. If it's a strictly house club, I would kind of struggle playing house all night, because I'll get a bit bored. Likewise with drum and bass. I like to be able to kind of move around a bit, you know, play a bit of hip hop halfway through to kind of chill everyone out a bit, then take it back up again to, like, you know, there's lots of different music I have, a lot of different BPMs, 100, 105, 110, 115, 118, you know, 120, up to like 130 BPM, like fast, two-steppy, you know, broken beat kind of stuff. And it's all relevant at a different point in the night. And not just start slow and go faster and faster, because by 5 in the morning you'd be playing Gabba, you know. It doesn't quite, you know, you don't want to do that. But just understanding what the crowd needs at different points. And I have a lot of respect for people that just play records as well. They don't bother about mixing, they don't care what tempo it is. Here's a good record. Yeah. Play it from start to end. Here's another good record. And that skill is perhaps better than being technically good, because you're playing records that are just absolutely amazing. And I'd rather kind of hear that than seamless mixing all night.